Okay, lovely spirit. So this is part two. I want to continue why sex is a satanic ritual video. You know, the sacred knowledge I was breaking down to you guys about the orgasm and all of that. I want to go ahead and continue with breaking it down. Where I left off, I was explaining to everyone. I went through the orgasm, the ancient brotherhood, you know, the shadows of light. And I broke down a lot of things in the first video, and I end explaining how, you know, the woman's body in ancient sacred knowledge was the hell. But I don't want women to get lost and think, oh, this video is biased, we're hell, and you have to grasp everyone's a spirit that's in a body, or a sperm cell that got an egg cell. So you have to grasp you were a spirit that was dropped into hell yourself and got an egg cell and emerged in the form of the hell. So you have the keeper of the life of the spirits and the keeper of the hell. And this is how the life manifests forth into the physical. But never get lost. We are all spirits and bodies. That's your first state, your first nature. No different than the man. You came from the same penis or realm as a sperm cell or a spirit. So do not get lost. But it's a very deep knowledge that we have to grasp. And I broke down the Neteru and the four baboon. Hopefully y'all grasp that. And I broke down the Kundalini. So it's a deep thing. I want to move along now to the last part. Why sex is a satanic ritual. And it's like I said, you know, the life, sex, it leads to physical life, which is an abomination to life. Because when we come into the physical, we have to eat and sin against the other life forms to sustain our own being. So it's a dog eat dog nature. Mind you, we're all spirits coming from the same realm, so to say. We're all spirits that got egg cells, sperm cells that got egg cells, spirits that got bodies. So man, woman, we're all that. But then we come into the physical life, and the hell is a deep thing. So life is micro to macro. So we're nothing more than cells in a larger body, but the hell is still the hell. So it's a deep thing you have to grasp. Sex, it leads to spirits being brought into hell. Sperm cell being dropped into wombs. So it's a deep thing. Now I know many of y'all wonder, why is physical life hell? Why do you keep saying it's hell? Life is grief, like I said. Now when you have kids, life beats them down, gives them grief, heartbreak. They experience death, heartbreak, grief, pain, love, hate. They just experience, you know, life beats them down. They get old. Life seems to fill people up with hate, being as though they don't understand, you know, the existence they're brought into and the way I just broke it down. So we just come into the life thinking it's a great place and it's ours and we should be able to do what we want and get everything we want. So, you know, as man goes in life, he builds up a lot of anger and things like this. But life is grief. We have kids, they have their grief, but their grief becomes ours because your kids' pain and grief becomes yours as well. You share their grief and pain. They don't share yours, but you feel their pain when they go through things you've already experienced in a life, and they become your worry. And you think about them and you like, man, I know. So your children become your burden. It's a deep thing. They become your burden, your baggage. You have to kind of carry them around, and They become your burden and you become their blame. And it's a deep thing. The man and woman become one. And then the child divides the whole. Because now when the man and woman has a child, then the problems come. And they begin to get separate from one another. The bond begins to slowly break. So even married couples, they are not one anymore. Like the man's working, the woman's doing this, and the kids take up the time. And there's no union anymore, but there's just the kid becomes the bond. So it's deep. The man and woman becomes one, but once they come forth with the child becomes their bond. They are no longer bonded to one another. And the child's a burden. They become a burden for one another. And you see how it just destroys. The life just eats away on itself. And we don't look at it from the perspective that it truly is. To truly grasp what sex and reproducing and just all of, I don't want to say too much things. I'll be about to slip and say knowledge that I didn't want to say. But I want to keep it on the realms of what I was speaking of. But sex is a satanic ritual. This is why when you look at all satanic religions, there's an aspect of sex and pervertedness. Always. And this is why when you look at like God religions and faiths, sex is kind of frowned on. This is why. Because sex was always associated with a sexual ritual, meaning sex in itself was a sexual or a satanic ritual, meaning bringing spirits into hell. And if you don't know that, you bring a whole bunch of them. And we have the abundance of life that we have now. Sons kills fathers, and the life is just eating away at itself. And it's a deep thing I want y'all to grasp. It's just like Adam and Eve. Eve was tempted by the Satan, or the devil, or the serpent, the self. And she ate up the fruit, which is sex, and she gave some to Adam. And then after that, they were born into this physical world, and they had to fend for themselves, and they had children, and their children became their burden and caused them to age and die. And their children killed one another, and they aged and died. And they had a whole bunch of kids because they didn't understand the nature of the life and the sacred understandings of what I broke down in the first video. So it's a very deep thing. And this is how the life is. Sex, I'm about to break it down deep, how sex is a satanic ritual. But I don't want to say too much. Give me a second. I'm sorry I had to wet my palate. These long videos, they dry you out. But like I was saying, sex is a satanic ritual. This is what it was in its beginnings, and this is what it still is, but we do it in ignorance, not realizing the connection in the reality of hell and all these ancient texts that we have that are explaining this in their way. So all the ancient texts we have, all the way up till the way it's worded in today's times with the hell and the devil, and so was the same in the past, but they worded it their way. But this is always the sacred knowledge that is there for man to grasp. The divine knowledge of the orgasm in hell, and the woman, and the man, and is deep. In the first video, I went into man's beginnings, how they were created, and hopefully you caught that first video, but sex is a satanic ritual. Now, if you go to like ancient Hinduism in its early beginnings, you have like Brahma, Shiva, and Vishnu. Now, you know, Brahma's creation, Vishnu is the sustainment, the period in between, and Shiva is the destruction. So Brahma's the creation, Shiva's the destruction. And Vishnu is the time in between the two, or the sustainment. And Shiva, according to ancient Hinduism, Shiva has this dance of destruction. And many people do not understand what that is. And, there's many analogies you can correlate it to life because, all things continuously move forward and manifest more and more. So, one thing becomes many things, but you have to know the root of the thing. So the dance of Shiva, Shiva's dance of destruction, I'm not sure how familiar y'all are with ancient Hinduism and Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, but if any of you are, you know Shiva has a dance of destruction. And what that dance is sex. That's what that's breaking down. See, Shiva became a man, but it was always Brahma was the male figure. Vishnu was like the physical person figure, and Vishnu was the figure of a woman. And Brahma was like the figure of like a male, but a father, like the father. And Shiva was depicted as a woman. And it's a very deep thing. Shiva had a dance of destruction. And that dance in ancient times was sex. And the understandings of the Kundalini and all of that I broke down in the first video. You know how the Kundalini uncoils out into the penis and spirits are released into the womb or the hell of a woman and born into the physical hell. So it's a deep thing I want y'all to grasp with this knowledge. Even when you go to like Yama and Samsara and Naraka, this is explaining that as well. Yama is the judger of the spirits. So when you die, Yama decides if you go to heaven or hell before you're thrown back into samsara, which is basically physical life. So samsara is physical life. When you die, or what we call death, you come into the spirit. This is according to ancient Hinduism or Jainism, because they're all like the same. But you have Yama, and this is the god. This is the god of death realm, you can say. So when you die, the spiritual realm, Yama is the god of that. And when you die and you're in spirit, he will decide if your spirit goes to heaven or hell. And then after a time, it's snatched out of either heaven or hell and thrown back into samsara, which is physical life. So when you die, you either go to heaven or hell. This is spiritual. And then eventually, you're born again back into physical life. So it's a deep thing, and it's the same knowledge that I broke down in the first video. That's what that is. See, men are Yama. We decide if the spirits go to hell or not. So when you have sex and you ejaculate into a woman, you just release spirits into hell. Grasp. This is how the ancients viewed the sacred knowledge. And it's a real deep thing. It's real. I don't want you to think, oh, this was their analogy of life. But this is life when you truly grasp it. And it's a deep thing. The man is Yama. And the woman is hell. So when the spirits are sent to hell by Yama, this is where they're sent. Ejaculated into a woman. This is what this is breaking down. So you have micro life within you. There's many realms of hell. There's many sides of male and female bodies in the life. You have cells within you. This is micro life. You have male and female. I know we don't grasp this, but so it's the same with the macro life, the stars above. This is all physical life, the levels of it. Now, when the cells, the micro life within you die, their spirit is left. This is what is called sperm cells. And a woman is different. I hate to break down a woman because, that's the hell, the death. It's a deep thing, but we just stick to men for now. I don't want to, because y'all get lost in not understanding. You begin to feel hopeless, but the knowledge is not for that. It's deep. But when men ejaculate, they decide right there. They send their cells, the spirit of the micro life within them. They decide in that moment when they have sex if those spirits are going to hell or if he's keeping them with himself. If a man doesn't have sex, he keeps the spirits with himself. This is heaven. That energy will build up and ascend up to the higher parts of the male body, which is the heaven. Or he can ejaculate them into a woman. This is the hell. And the spirits, the sperm cells, will die in that hell. Or get a body. So this is why when you're dealing with Hinduism, it says Yama judges the spirits and decides if they go to heaven or hell, but then they're eventually thrown back into samsara, which is physical life. Because when a man ejaculates into a woman, you can say those spirits were sent to hell. So the cells within his body died. They became sperm cells, which is spirits. And he sent those to hell. And they were there for a time, but after a while, manifest into the physical, resurrected from the hell into the bigger hell, which is death. And so they live and die. The moment they're born, death begins. And so the clock begins. So it's a deep thing. That's what the whole Hinduism thing is breaking down with Yama. You can say Yama is basically a man. But so it's the same when we die. We be sent to either heaven or hell, the same way I just broke it down, for a time. And like I always say, get you an exhale and be born out into the macro physical life. So it's a deep thing I want y'all to grasp, but this is the power that men hold. This is the power. So it's like women provoke the man's orgasm to get spirits in hell. Not saying she does this purposely, but men release spirits in hell, and women pull for spirits to come into their hell, and all of this is done in ignorance. Because the sacred understandings of all of this is exploited in today's times, where children know of sex before they even indulge, or know anything that I just said. So it's a deep thing. This is how you get that, Yama. Oh, it's so many different ancient cultures breaking this same thing down. Just like with Norse and Helheim, and you have the Jotunheim giants, you have the Aesir gods, the Vanir gods, the elves. And depending on the life they live, they're sent to either Helheim or one of the heavens, which would be Asgard, or I forgot how you pronounce it. Folkvor. I forgot how you pronounce it, but that's one of the heavens. Valhalla is one of the heavens. In Helheim, which is Hell's realm, the goddess Hel, this is where spirits are sent that don't live honorable lives. But it's the same as like the Hinduism with Yama. It is all breaking down life. We have to always remember that when you're dealing with ancient Kemetic science and they're breaking down things like this. This is just another way of breaking down the uterus and the egg cell. It's like I said, the uterus, was always viewed as its own entity within a woman's body, which is the hell. A woman's body, her innards, is the hell. And the vagina was viewed as the gateway in hell. And the uterus, which we depict in today's times as the Baphomet, this is the art of the uterus. But the Baphomet would be the entity within hell that guards the lake of fire. And what is the lake of fire? The egg cell. So you see the sperm cell in there. The lake of fire. The lake of blood or death. Whatever you want to call it. And like I said, the uterus was viewed as its own entity. The guardian of the egg cell. Or what they referred to in the ancient times as the lake of fire, the hell, the death. And the spirits emerge from that into the physical death, the rest of it. And it's a deep, cold-blooded thing, but ancient Kemet, even in ancient Mesopotamia, Sumer, and all of that, every ancient culture had the shadows of light, the ancient first brotherhood. And this is what all that knowledge is breaking down. It's just exploited in today's times because men truly don't grasp. So they tell it how they assume it to be. So it's just like with ancient Kemetic science. The brothers truly do not understand the Neteru and understand that that's what that's breaking down. You just have to say the non-Neteru backwards to grasp. So you have Adam, Shu, Tefnut, Nut, Geb, Asar, Aset, Set, Nephthys. But if you say it backwards, then you can grasp. That whole thing is breaking down a woman's body, which is the hell, is breaking down the life and how you come into the physical, the whole process of it. So that's what the Neteru, which are spoken of in the Book of the Dead, this is what all of that is breaking down. But they're just going, it's so deep, they're breaking down the whole shadow of light, brotherhood knowledge. Is just cold-blooded. I don't know what they were called in Chem, but I know the first secret society that kept this knowledge sacred, they had their name. Like I said, we'll just call them the shadows of light. But they existed in all times of the life, and they still do. I don't mean on a widow tip, but you know, like kings pass down their kingship to their sons, their heirs, so it's the same with the shadows of light, the brotherhood, the first, what we would call secret society, but they were just keeping the true knowledge pure. Secret societies of today, like I said, they keep their dark, deep secrets, their sins against the life. That's what their secrets are about. Secret societies of today, they have no wisdom for you. They can only tell you the deep, dark sciences and sins against the life that they've done, that if you found out, you look down on them, even though you have your own secrets and things you've done. So, and you have your pacts with people and dirt y'all have done behind closed doors, and this is all secret societies are. You know, their secrets are a matter of things they've done, or their ancestors, or those that started the society did. But the brotherhood was more about the wisdom and keeping that pure and sacred, and they're still around. Like I said, I don't want to go too deep into it because they're in the shadows. It's not about them pushing out the wisdom, but it's about them just keeping that wisdom pure for the eternity of the physical. So as long as you have physical life, you have to have this wisdom in its pure state that I was just breaking down in this video and the prior one that goes with this one, the first part. So throughout all history, you will always have this knowledge kept sacred. You will always have it carved on different monuments. We don't understand what we see, but it's always there in plain sight. And then you will always have the brothers, the brotherhood, the shadows of light. And I don't care what point in time, they're always around and they keep the knowledge pure. It's not about pushing it out, but just keeping it pure for those who are pure to grasp and keep it pure as well. So it's a deep thing. I'm pushing out a lot of it because knowledge must be all secrets, whether it be for protection purposes or for one's guilt. All wisdom must be released into the life free, and men will do what they do, and but that lies with them. We cannot control. I don't want y'all. I don't judge. The brotherhood, they do what they do, and they keep the knowledge pure, and it's a good thing. Unless I wouldn't have it, you can say in a sense. So but at the same token, it's kept from the masses, and y'all run around with the exploited wisdom, pulling for truth, but all y'all truly have is the exploited, altered wisdom. And the brotherhood that keeps the knowledge pure, they just stand by and they could care less because their whole thing is to keep the wisdom pure and away from y'all, because at this point in time y'all have the exploited wisdom all within your mind. It's conditioned and braided in there. So when you get pure knowledge, all you do is mix and merge it with the exploitation. So it will always be exploited if you're giving it to those who've been exploited already. So they just kind of keep it away from what they would call the impure. And it's a deep thing, but I push the knowledge out. I feel like that's not their call. It's a deep thing. All knowledge is to be given to everyone in the life. And the lost spirits will make the knowledge lost and do what they do, and those of purity will keep the knowledge pure and do what they do. And this is the balance and duality of the life. And the bad has to be what they are. They won't view themselves as bad, but it's the life. You have to let the life work its way out, because the bad man's cause and the effects of his cause will still transcend into the goodness of the life. And the good in the life will always transcend over into the bad or bring about the bad. So the duality of the life is transcending. It's not separate how we view it. We view like good separate from bad, and this is not how it works. And evil men are separate from good men, but all evil men were good and pure and innocent at one point in time and transcended. And most good men were bad at one time, and they transcended over to be good in their way. And it's a deep thing. It's like I said, life transcends, the duality transcends. Therefore, all wisdom must be shared freely. And the bad will do what they do, the good will do what they do, but they will both transcend. So those who are good, or that we view good, may eventually transcend into negativity. So it's deep. But there you have it.